listening audience, and welcome to another Toonkind at 12 frames per second. I am your host with the most, your whirlwind Gale, and I am here today with my lovely, darling, charming, enchanting, delightful, clever, creative. I need more adjectives. I need to swallow a dictionary. I'm here with one of my dearest friends, who is a
Aw,
delight and was so kind as to indulge me in this nonsense when it is very, very late at night for them.
it's
Uh,
okay.
Say
Hi,
hi,
hi.
Oatmeal.
Hello, I am Oatmeal. I can't match that. Stop. um, my goodness. I am Oatmeal, and I will be playing the professor today.
Indeed. Sorry, I just found a. Anyway,
Mhm.
there was a piece of
Well,
chicken stuck to my shirt. Um,
oh, mm.
Charming sort of day we're having today. Anyway.
Well, this takes place after uh, the Overblot finale.
Yes, yes, it does.
Yep. And then also, I believe Yura had an FPS rather, with Crystal as well.
Yes, that would be correct. I believe.
Mhm.
Probably. Maybe. Yes. Yes, that
That
happened yesterday.
was Rise and Shine. Yep.
Yep, so this takes place post both Rise and Shine and Shadow Puppeteer's grand finale.
Mm.
So if you haven't listened to those, spoilers ahoy! Well, probably not spoilers for the FPS, but definitely spoilers for the finale. Because otherwise we wouldn't be having this FPS. Anyway, Oatmeal, why don't you tell me what
Mm.
Professor's up to?
He has been sticking around in the Layton house. What else is new? But he since getting Yura back, he has not really wanted to leave him. Um, but he has to sometimes, either because he needs to check on somebody else in the household, or just because uh, somebody else needs to talk to him or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
um, he's keeping watch. Um, he's um, he's probably fiddling with something. What are you playing with, Professor? Um, I think uh, I think right now he's playing with I think um yeah, I think he's juggling um some otadama. It's a beanbag. Um and he has one that makes like music, but he's not using that because Yura is asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Um but he is using the three mundane ones that he has that are a bit quieter,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just kind of keeping himself entertained.
He's just
Um,
sitting there juggling.
yeah, this is
Oatmeal.
probably like the latest in a string of uh, miscellaneous activities.
Oatmeal, please know that I love this man.
I want to roll I guess sleight of hand to see if he's actually doing well or not. Let's see. Oh, not bad at all. That's 21.
Ooh, nice.
He's doing
This
pretty
man
good.
knows how to juggle. Makes sense, he's
Yes.
a clown. I'm so sorry, that was mean.
He is. Uh, but yeah, he's just keeping himself occupied while he uh keeps watch over Yuura, in case anything happens or he wakes up or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. I should probably roll to see how long it takes Yoda to wake up today. How sleepy are you, my dear? Wait, hang on. That one fell weird. Note to self, don't roll on keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
8. Plus, I think plus 0? Yeah, 8.
Uh,
He very
Pretty,
eepy.
yeah, pretty sleepy.
So he's very eepy.
Hmm.
So Prof is probably busy entertaining himself for a bit. It's probably later in the afternoon when finally signs of life.
Hmm.
And
he
um
he he'll stop and catch the Otodama
I
and
was
just
gonna
lean
have
in.
I was
No.
gonna have Yoda just like peeking over the pillow pile, just watching, very sleepy, but
No, you can do that because Professor may not have caught much. His perception isn't superb, and he's juggling. That's a little distracting.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, he Yura looks uh over his covers and sees the professor juggling some brightly colored little bean bags.
He just sits there and watches for a bit as his sort of, his brain starts coming back online. You know, the way your brain just shuts off while you're asleep. It takes you a couple minutes to turn everything back
Oh
on when
yeah,
you wake up.
absolutely.
And after a couple minutes, he'll sit up, rub his eyes a little bit, and give a little round of applause.
No. um that might startle him a little bit. He with that roll manages to catch them all, but just grins wide, um, and gives a bow from his seat.
And that makes Yoda laugh a little bit, and he smiles.
Hello, dear.
He waves, and let's see. We'll roll con to see if you've got your voice back yet.
Hmm.
Oh, gosh darn it, hang on. Sorry, I'm not used to rolling physical dice.
No
That is a
worries.
6, so I'm gonna call that a no.
Mm-hmm.
So he. Oh, wait, hang on. Wrong place for the exclamation point. Yeah. He, like, goes to try and say good morning, but the words don't come out, and that kind of makes him frown a little bit, but he shrugs it off quickly and instead just waves.
Still, well, that's to be expected, having a bit of trouble with that.
He nods and sort of sorts through the, again, probably massive pile of pillows looking for his pocket mirror.
Hmm. Um, he just sort of like scratches his head a second. I could cast detect thoughts if you'd rather, but that's kind of um if you don't want to bother with the device. But actually, he like he like he like frowns a bit. No, that won't work very well. It only lasts about a minute, and I can only cast it a few times.
um, and Uh, I think, Yuura can't find his mirror in the pillows, so instead he tries going for his hammer space.
Mm-hmm.
And first time he goes for his hammer space, that is a fumble.
Ah, yes.
Um, luckily, I already know I don't have to roll a d20 because I already know what he pulls out the first time he ever fumbles.
Yeah.
Um, because he goes for his hammer space, which is just sort of sorting through the cloak that he's wearing,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of pulling out his pocket mirror, he pulls out a pair of headphones, and then the wire for those headphones, and then the
Mm-hmm.
wire for those headphones, and then the wire for those headphones.
Uh-huh.
And then at the end of it, he pulls out a little device. A little device, maybe about the size, small enough that it can fit in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
with a little bright purple um, dial and button in the center.
Mm-hmm.
And he blinks at that in surprise for a minute.
What's that? Is that a... Hmm. He looks towards it and he tries to date it. Because it doesn't look like mirror tech.
No, no, this
Um,
looks a lot older than anything mirror tech-ish. Also, it looks very non-magical.
uh-huh. Is that
Um,
a... It's not a... Is that an MP3 player?
and he nods.
Oh gosh. Been a while since I've seen one of those.
Um, Fiona kind of looks at it, and there's a very, surprised but also fond and sentimental expression on his face because this is something important to him.
No.
Let's try going for hammer space again. Okay, that time he gets his pocket mirror, um, and slides that open, goes through the screens, which, side note, look different than the last time Professor saw them,
Interesting.
because now they are shaped like flowers.
That's so cute.
And
Were they
they're,
just like rectangles before?
yep, before they were basically just rectangles, now they are shaped like flowers.
Hmm.
And the thing that they get pulled out of in the middle is shaped like kind of like a lotus flower, where all of the
Oh,
different tabs are different petals on the flower.
oh my god, that's so cute.
um, and he pulls up the TTS program, uh, and types out, "I thought I lost that thing.
Yeah?
I this was in my this wasn't even in my pockets when I left home. I The last I had this, I gave it to my best friend. And he was all the way across the country when I got kidnapped."
Hmm. That fellow you used to watch TV with or something?
Yes, Rio.
Yeah.
I gave it to him before he left. How did it end up here? With my
Uh,
old headphones, nonetheless.
don't know. I mean, the obvious answer would be magic, but I don't even know what magic would do that. And Earth doesn't have magic, so
No, we don't. And he,
that's...
picks up the headphones and looks them over. They are also very old looking. A pair of sort of pastel blue to seafoam green gradiented headphones, but the over the ear part are shaped like stars and have a light purple border on them.
Oh, that's cute. Huh.
And he kind of smiles and says, "I mean, it's nice to have it back, but the
Hmm.
implications are a little confusing."
A bit. Bit. Sometimes strange things like that do happen.
Yeah,
Maybe there's some reason for it that we just don't know about.
possibly.
Although, what am I thinking? You've just pulled it out of, uh, um, you've got hammer space, right?
Apparently.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, that explains it somewhat. With a hammer space, you can sort of grab things that you didn't necessarily put in there.
Oh, yeah. I've seen people do that before. I never used it for that. But for me, it was mostly just like having really big pockets. Except for when I'd pull something out on accident. Lots of paper
Hmm.
flowers. They look
Huh.
like the crafts projects I used to make with the kids at the museum.
Oh.
And he'll sort through Hammerspace again to try and find one to show Professor.
Oh.
That's a 3. Um, he pulls out a little pipe cleaner and tissue paper marigold flower and hands that to the professor.
Oh, that's very pretty.
Isn't it? They were a lot of fun to make. We would make them around the Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm. He's going to stick it behind his ear. Stick it in his hair.
Yoda will give like a jokingly appraising look and then nod and say, "It suits you.
Hmm.
Orange and teal really are your colors."
Oh, thank you. Hmm. How have you? How are you feeling?
Mm, well, tired, cold,
Hmm.
but I can feel it, and honestly, I will take that over the alternative. I feel real, and that's good, right?
That is good. That is good.
How about you? Are you okay?
Yeah, just really relieved and glad that we got you back.
I'm sorry I took so long.
Hmm?
I'm sorry I took so long.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for any of this.
No, but I didn't exactly give you guys much information in the ways of things to go on. Words.
You,
He kind of does a
you
little
gave.
key smash on the keyboard.
Oh, you gave me plenty of information. And, I mean, with all of these detectives, they figured out the rest.
We do have a good choice of clever friends.
Absolutely. Well, and not just the detectives. Crystal's brilliant as well, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, even Jubilee is clever in his own different way.
That makes Sienna laugh again. He just kind of hides his mouth behind his hand to hide the fact that he's laughing, but he's very bad at it.
uh, uh.
He types out, "I can't believe you'd bully him when he's not even here to defend himself."
No, I do it to his face too. He just happens to not be here right now.
Tragic. No one to defend his honor.
I see you're not bothering.
Well, of course not. I know him.
Hmm. Uh,
first time we made potions together, he made a spoon fly.
You made.
I
Of
lost one of
course he did.
I lost one of my mixing spoons because it got floated out the window.
Oh no. Oh.
We also filled my kitchen with frogs.
Ha- what potion?
Potion of summon frog, apparently.
Oh my goodness. I don't suppose you did that on purpose.
No.
I
No,
had a feeling.
we most certainly did not.
Uh,
We were trying to figure out the recipe for lemonade in this world.
oh.
And as you can tell, we were successful. There were just
Mm-hmm.
complications
Mm-hmm.
in the form of frogs
Uh,
and flying spoons.
yes. Uh, he does. He does seem to bring along uh, chaos wherever he goes.
Yeah, I like that about him.
It's fun. Hmm. Oh, he looks away and rubs the back of his neck. I'm sorry for being a bit too blunt back there when we woke you up the first time.
Oh, that. I mean, at least you let me know? I think it would have been
Mhm.
worse if I had gone and found out myself. I think we might have dodged a bullet there, so
Mm,
sometimes blunt is okay.
uh, maybe. Probably could have worded it better, but well.
Well, there's not really a polite way to say, oh, by the way, you lost your head.
And I suppose there isn't really.
You know, that's kind of one of those things where it's really there's no good way to say it, so you might as well rip the band aid off.
Oh, I suppose. Mm.
Just terribly sorry. Terribly sorry for the inconvenience, but I do hope you weren't too attached to having, well, your head attached to the rest of you. Because you may have to make other plans.
Yes, perhaps it was my tone that needed work.
Maybe. Delivery is very important.
Yes, that's true. Uh,
I'm glad you were there, though. I was kind of hoping you would be.
well, I'm glad I could be. I truthfully wouldn't miss it for the world.
I'm glad everyone was there. I really. I thought about this whole thing happening before, but I didn't
Mm.
expect anyone to show up, much less see the end of it.
Oh, you mean back when, uh, what, you've thought about it back when you were in the mirror, or?
Well, no, I wasn't aware of it then.
Mm,
More of. I thought of it while I was here, but I guess having it in my head made it harder to think of the fact that there were people who would want to make sure that I saw the end of this,
mm,
and sort of made it a why should anyone bother? So
mm-hmm.
I'm really glad you all proved it wrong. It could be a real negative Nancy.
That's the understatement of the century, but yes. Yes, I'm quite glad we proved it wrong too. Um, weren't about to leave you like that.
And he nods and then kind of fiddles with his fingers for a minute, and there's a little bit of hesitation before he starts typing again and then says, "How long was I gone?"
Hmm. From hmm, from when you disappeared at Crystal's Overblot to um, uh, making a bit of a mess of the sunroom.
Oh,
Um,
dang it, I forgot about that. I am so sorry.
it's fine. It's fine. It's a toon house. It can repair fairly easily. Um,
Well, still, it's not polite to the house.
no, but I'm sure it understood. It's already back to normal. Tome was uh, lounging around down there earlier. Um, uh, what was I saying? It was about a little over a month.
Hmm. Yeah, it felt about that long. I was hoping I'd been wrong about that.
Mm, no, unfortunately.
That's darned inconvenient.
Well, it perhaps, but it did give us time to prepare and to make sure that our numbers were fit and ready to actually go help. Nobody had to stay home.
Well, that's good at least.
Hmm.
Hopefully, I didn't scare anyone too much.
Hmm. You, well, I'll be lying if I said they weren't upset.
Well, I guess that is to be expected. Or
Yes.
something I should start expecting again.
Hmm.
That's going to take some getting used to, actually.
Well, that's all right. No, it's they they really do all hold you in very high regard. Very fond of you.
Well, I should hope so. I'm fond of them as well. He kind of leans over and pokes the professor in the arm. I'm fond of you too,
Mm.
you know.
And I'm fond of you as well. He'll reach over and tussle his hair a little bit.
And he laughs at that. And he kind of squints at his own hair after a minute because when the professor ruffles it, it gets in his eyes and he just blinks at it and is just, I need a haircut. This is so long.
It is quite long.
Like he pulls it out from under, underneath the cloak, and it's very, very long. Also, it's stained white at the ends.
Hmm.
He frowns and says, "Huh, that's new."
Hmm. I don't think I'd noticed that before. Uh, in Inkspace, it was, well, still a bit drippy.
Hmm. Wonder if that's why.
Maybe. Bleached
Possibly.
it?
Maybe it's able to reconstruct the presence of hair being there, but not the colors. Hmm.
Bit of melanin loss.
Entirely possible.
Although, if you're a. I'm not. Are you a. I can't tell if you're a toon or not. I'm not sure.
He kind of looks himself over and like squints.
Because if you're a toon, then it wouldn't be melanin loss, uh, or it might be, but it might also be something else. I'd call it something different. Uh, but yeah, he does just kind of take a second to like look at Yura and try and figure out. Uh,
Yoda is also just like looking at himself, like squinting at his hands because he can't actually see those now. Or wait, no, you wouldn't be able to. They are still under cloak blanket.
mhm.
He's kind of like squinting at where his hands would be under the cloak blanket and is just like, I don't know. How does one tell if one is a toon if you can't see immediate stuff?
Hmm. Hammer space is a good indicator. Although uh, somebody can be part toon and still have hammer space. Uh, I guess that's a good indication that you're likely at least part toon. Um,
Probably. And he will like pull his hair in front of him again and like squint at it. And kind of as the professor watches and as Yoda is squinting at it, the color block of brown and white gets wrapped around with a very thick black outline. And he blinks at that in surprise. Um, well, that
hmm.
happened.
Well, that's odd. That wasn't there before.
No, no, it wasn't. And he will try and uh, call back to the first ever game slash FPS I did with him. He will like grab at the edges of that and like try to pull the line art away from the color out of curiosity.
I don't know if. Well, I don't know if that'll work, but um,
Um, and he winces when it does work and just, oh, that feels weird.
ooh, best put it back.
Yep, he like lets go and it snaps back into place and he just shakes his head, just, ugh.
Mm. Line art is, as I understand it, generally speaking, supposed to stay in place.
Yeah, it didn't like it when I tried to move it.
Mm.
That's weird though. The first time I ever. When I first got here, I saw it on my hands and tried to pull it off, and that worked. It just looked funny. And when I let go, it snapped back into place like that. But it didn't feel like anything.
Mm. Maybe because it was. Hmm. Well, you were different. Uh, Whatever you are now is not the same as what you were then. Because what you were then is um, basically an astral projection body uh,
Mm.
made to look toonish on the outside while still having human blood on the inside. Very confusing.
Yeah. It, I think what it was, or at least how it felt, or what I understood.
Mm.
It's hard to really feel anything in that state, but what
Mm.
I understood of it was I was human. If you cut
Mhm.
me down to the core of me, I would still be human. But the
Shell?
the sort of the blot that had managed to get to the surface when I moved from the mirror to this world
Mm.
didn't want its presence known, and
Ah,
so wanted me easy to overlook, and therefore looked at
blended.
everybody around me and said, ah, these people are this kind of people,
Mm.
so I will make my host into that kind of person to fit in with the overall average
Ah.
and make them less likely to be seen or paid attention to or acknowledged.
Mm.
Hiding in plain sight sort of business, and I guess for
Mhm,
something
mhm.
made of ink, a tune is fairly easy to copy.
Yes. Yes, I suppose it would be. bit of a chameleon effect.
Yeah. And he kind of
Hmm.
wrinkles his nose at that.
Strange. Well, uh, I know a decent bit about biology, but not about toon biology. You're going to have to ask Crystal and Tome about that. Maybe
He,
mostly Crystal.
he gives a little salute.
Um, but yeah, you've got a bit of a a white streak there, kind of like Jubilee.
A bit. He kind of smiles and says, I mean, from what I understand, it would come from the same place, so that does make a little bit of sense.
From
He makes a hand across the throat gesture.
well, that is my understanding of it. So maybe.
Is that a thing? Is that a thing that happens to people? I genuinely don't know. Where I'm from, people don't typically come back from the dead. You
Uh,
either get revived within seconds by a medical professional or you are just dead.
mhm,
And you
mhm.
stay that way for the most part.
Yes. In other worlds and communities where magic is either vanishingly rare or non-existent, that still remains the case usually. Um, but out here, where there's plenty of magic uh, ready to be used, um, coming back from the dead is it's still, let's say, taboo to certain people, but uh, if you do it properly and don't come back as, say, a ghoul, a zombie, vampire, skeleton, whatever, that's undead, that's different. If you know, resurrect somebody properly, the same way you would, just maybe using magic, uh, it's not especially uncommon. It's just uncommon enough to be a little surprising when somebody tells you that they've, well, died before.
I guess I can add myself to the number of people who can claim that.
Yes. Uh, you're in good company. There are a few of us here.
And that gets a raised eyebrow. Us?
Hmm. I can count myself among them. Uh, although my case is a bit um, unusual.
He nods.
He's not sure if he wants to go into all of that because it's a lot.
That is entirely up to him.
Yeah. Um, he hesitates for a bit. I mean, it's kind of a dark subject, but I mean, if you're curious, I could tell you.
Um, Yoda just kind of smiles a little bit wryly at him and types out in the thing, "Ooh, story time!"
uh, um,
And he
well, it's
also will follow that up with, "Don't worry, I'm no stranger to dark subjects."
that's true. Well, uh, I suppose. Well, you know, I've been to other worlds. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've said as much. I'm not from this one. That may not come as a surprise either.
And he kind of smiles and puts a little handshake emoji in the TTS.
Quite. Um, well, I'm not just, say, a foreign human. I'm not human. I'm, uh, uh, well, alien.
Professor Roll insight.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a dirty 20.
He does
Now,
not seem surprised.
uh, Professor is not 100% sure what to make of that. Like, is it just because this kid is really perceptive and not a lot phases him? Or, or what? um,
He just nods. He just doesn't seem very surprised.
yeah, he raises an eyebrow a bit, but he continues. Um, and being an alien, my physiology is rather different from a human's underneath the skin. Um, I've, let's see, the easiest way to explain this particular feature of my species would be uh, we've got a sort of 9 lives thing, feature.
Yoda sends a cat emoji.
Yes. um, uh, whether we, uh, it's like, well, uh, hmm. We live a long time, uh, and whether we, but we're still mortal. Whether we die from uh, some uh, some uh, some traumatic method or simply of old age, um, for a set number of times, we come back afterwards. Sort of a built-in resurrection.
Hmm. And Yoda nods. And he kind of thinks for a minute before typing out in the chat, in the TTS.
Hmm.
Uh, so a form of regenerative reincarnation.
Uh, yes,
Makes sense.
he squints because he didn't. Okay, yes, you could extrapolate that from what he said, but that was rather quick. Yes, we regenerate into uh, uh, fresher, healthier body. At least that's how it's meant to work.
Meant to?
It has uh, bugs, I suppose. It doesn't always work the way it was designed to. Um,
Ah,
uh,
living bodies are rarely perfect machines.
quite, quite. Um, yeah, I haven't had anything too terrible, but mm, mine are a bit prone to quirks. My generations, that is.
Yoda nods and then types out, well, I guess that would make each time around more interesting, no? You never know what you're going to end up with. It would be dreadfully boring if you got the same thing every time.
It does. It does make it interesting. That's how I like to look at it.
He smiles and sends a little confetti sparkler emoji in chat.
Uh,
I found out I
how
have
about...
emoticons on this thing, and it's very fun.
Oh, good. Well, yes, I do change a bit. But how about you? Uh, well, you aren't quite the same, uh, obviously. But is there anything in particular, anything else in particular that you've noticed? Um, it's, well, I'll say it's a little hard to tell from here just because of your
He raises his hands up
coverings.
with the blanket.
Mm, yes, and the mask and all that.
Mm-hmm. And he does kind of nod and type out, "It's a little hard to tell right now. The line art is certainly new. And
Mm,
Crystal took a look at my eyes yesterday. Um, I happened to turn on the actual mirror function of this thing to take a look myself. Um,
mhm,
and he like sort of turns his head a little bit so the professor can see the other eye a little more clearly, and he points to it.
mhm,
One of his eyes is still the same brown as it ever was.
mm,
The other one is this sort of bluish seafoam green, very similar to sort of the colors that seem to follow him around a lot.
mhm. Interesting. Heterochromia.
That part's new. I think I might know
Mhm.
where it comes from, though.
Yes.
Well, in the mirror, uh, so, fun fact, in the mirror, brown eyes are very, very, very uncommon.
Ah.
Because in the mirror, most people are born with gray eyes and then get color as they discover their individual form of magic.
Mm,
And as brown is a very uncommon color for magic, the only way to have brown eyes
mm,
is to be naturally born with them, which is seen as something of a mutation.
mm,
The magic that's putting me together comes from the mirror, and this is similar to the color of, well, magic when I used it. It does
mm,
seem to still change colors when filtered through me, which always surprised me. I kind of expected that whenever I used magic that I absorbed from someone else or stole from the ambient environment, it would be, the color it was when it got taken, but no, it's still gets changed colors based on me, I guess.
mhm. Interesting. Well, uh, can you see all right?
And he smiles and says, "What, you want to hold up fingers and see if I can count how many there are?"
No, I have a feeling Crystal probably did something like that already.
He kind of smiles and wobbles his hand a bit and says, "Maybe a little." And he laughs and, "Yeah, I can see just fine.
That's good.
Still a little nearsighted, but I've always been that."
Ah, that's all right. We can always get you some corrective lenses.
Yeah, maybe if it gets worse. I never wound up needing glasses at home.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I do have one idea that I could try and figure out if there's anything to uh what uh give us a clue as to what you might be, what you might count as now. Um the professor has the spell detect evil and good,
Interesting.
um which I will put in the roll zone. Uh duration is it's concentration up to 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um For the duration, if there's an aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, fiend, or undead within 30 feet of you, as well as where. Um, Also, if there's a place or object in the same range that has been magically consecrated or desecrated. And there are some barriers that can block it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is he casting that?
Yeah, he would. He would cast Detect Evil and Good because he's curious.
um, and as a matter of fact, Yoda pings as Faye.
Hmm. Uh, well, magically at least, you are reading as Fae. Um, Now, that doesn't necessarily mean uh, that you're entirely Fae. Um, Crystal, for example, is part Fae. Um,
Hmm. Somehow that doesn't surprise me.
hmm. But yes, well, I mean, I do suppose that makes sense. Your exposure, and then also this magic that's kind of making up the rest of you right now came from Dyer, who's, uh, as I understand it, a Fae?
And Yoda nods and says, "Yeah, she's a fairy.
Um,
It's funny. Back in the mirror, they called her a monster because they didn't know what she was.
hmm,
But I
hmm.
never quite liked that. Calling something a monster just because you don't understand what it is a little silly.
It is.
But most of the time, cats couldn't talk back there, and certainly most of the time, cats were not on
Hmm.
fire back there, so I suppose those might have been a little bit more of the. He raises his fingers to make air quotes, monstrous traits.
Oh, still silly.
Still silly. But she's a fairy. Lots of people back in the mirror were.
Hmm.
He kind of frowns. I don't know how I feel about the fact that I seem to have more in common with them than the people here. I like the people here better.
Well, that's all right. You can't always choose what you're made of, where you come from. It doesn't really matter in the end.
I guess not. And besides, I can choose what parts of it matter to me.
Quite.
He does sort of turn over that MP3 player that he pulled out in his hands.
Hmm.
He kind of squints at it for a minute. It's not exactly as I remember. This bit's new. And he points to a um, little butterfly that's been painted on it in what looks like holographic nail polish.
Huh. Well, I don't know. Maybe your friend added it.
That does seem like something he would do. Although if it was him, I'm surprised it's not a honeybee.
Hmm.
Maybe a honeybee was too complicated. This looks like it was done with nail polish.
It does sound like it'd be a bit difficult with the usual applique brush.
Yeah. Rio really liked bees. I used to get so mad at him because we would go swimming in the public pool nearby and he would always nearly get himself drowned and always get himself stung trying to get the little things out of the pool.
Oh no. That's very sweet, but
It's very sweet, but I kept telling him just get a cup to do it. Stop trying to use your hands. And he would
hmm.
never listen. And then he would start crying because the bee would sting him and you know,
Hmm.
bees don't last long once their stinger's gone.
No.
It seems like a bit of a design flaw, really.
Mm.
Wasps had the right idea.
Perhaps.
I mean, I can say from experience, having all your guts yanked out does not feel good.
No, it doesn't.
And that gets a little bit of a concerned look because that sounded like it came with familiarity.
He just kind of shakes his head. You don't want to know.
Noted. You have my sympathies then.
And you mine. Um, you, uh, the last time we talked before Crystal's Overplot, um, you, uh, said there was something you wanted to tell me if you made it through everything.
Something I. Oh. And he does pause and pull his hands back from the keyboard for a moment and try and think about that.
Mm.
Um, Professor is free to roll insight.
Mm-hmm. I was doing so well. I got a nat one.
That one. For all Professor can tell, Yoda is trying to remember what he wanted to say.
Uh-huh. He's just waiting patiently. It's okay. The boy has a bit of a memory issue.
The memory hole runs deep.
Oh dear.
And he kind of pauses and then. Okay, the easiest way to start this would be to explain something of the philosophy my dad taught me. Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
In my family, we are very much about looking out for the people around you. The people in your life, the people in your community, generally the people of the world, because we all live in the same world and therefore we should all take care of each other. At the end of the day, we're all people.
Mm.
And the way my dad explained it to me when I was younger was care about everyone you meet. Hate only those who hurt the people who are yours. And love a select few.
Mm.
And he kind of doesn't meet the professor's eyes, very much focuses on uh very much focuses on the typing and says um I care about everyone I meet, but I would like you to be one of the people that I love in this world, if you're okay with that.
He uh he nods and starts to tear up, and he's going to move to sit on the bed uh, and give Yura a hug.
Yoda will hug him back just immediately. He can't type, him hands busy.
Mm. I would be honored, Yura. Thank you.
And there's a little happy hum.
Would you be would you mind if I called you family?
Um, Yuura does blink in surprise at that. And then takes a second, pulls over one of those little flower shaped screens, and types out, "If you would like to, I would be honored by that too."
All right then. Thank you, dear.
Yuura will just give him another hug.
Ooh, he doesn't need to roll insight to know that that means so much to the professor.
um, the professor also doesn't need to roll insight to know that it means a lot to Yuura too. That made him really, really happy. He seemed really surprised by it, which the professor can roll insight on if he wants, but
We'll see if he does better this time. Nope, that's technically better, but that's a 7. Uh, it's not very helpful, Professor.
yeah, no, that's a 7. Yeah, he just seemed a little surprised by it, but
Mm-hmm.
it very clearly makes him really happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just giving him a nice tight hug. Eventually pulls away.
Mm-hmm. I think Yoda does yawn a little bit afterwards because he got a 6 on his con at the beginning of this FPS.
That's right. Professor chuckles a little bit, uh, and um, uh, moves a bit of hair out of his face.
he
You
kind
tired, dear?
he kind of frowns and types on the TTS just, "I'm so tired of being sleepy. I know why, but why?"
uh,
Dramatic pouting.
oh, it's all right, dear. You get your rest, and when you wake up, either I or somebody else will be here
Does
to say
pause,
hello.
say, "Thank you guys for not leaving me by myself. It, waking up is always really weird. I'm still getting used to that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's nice when there's always someone else there."
I'm glad. No, there's certainly enough of us to cover a few shifts.
He laughs at that and nods and looks around, and then types out, "Is this the fabled Leighton Plus house? I've never actually been here before."
Yes, yes, it is. Um,
Ah,
it's
yes, the house of many people.
yes, and many rooms. Uh, I didn't realize, or it didn't have this quality before. Whatever. It um, it apparently can just make extra rooms when needed. It very kindly made one for Crystal, and it's made one for you, and it didn't bother making one for me, which I'm a little miffed at, but it also didn't make one for Tome, so I'm not too mad.
Yoda kind of blinks and is just like, "Huh, wonder why you two are the exception."
I don't know. Maybe it knew that we both needed to be in a central location where we could see everybody who was nearby. And thus we were relegated to the couch in the living room.
And he
I
nods.
I wouldn't want to be shut up in a room, truthfully.
He nods. There's a lot of life in those areas. That makes sense.
Yes. Well, for now, we can bring the people in here. Uh, just, I think it's worked out best if we get one or two people at a time at most, because if we get more, we're too loud and that might wake you up. Um,
Oh no, the horror.
you need your rest.
I've been asleep for 5 years. I want to be
Oh,
awake. I want to spend time with my friends.
I know. Once you uh, physically recover some more, we can get you into one of those normal circadian rhythms.
Ah, yes. The normal circadian rhythms I've heard so much about. I wonder what that must be like. Once I'm able to be up and about, Jubilee owes me throwing me into a river. I want to see if I still know how to swim.
um, well, as long as you've got somebody with you who does, because I can tell you from experience that sometimes when you die and come back, you do lose the ability to swim.
That would suck. I would hate that. I really like swimming.
I've got to relearn it now.
If I can't go swimming, then I can't go surfing. And that would be a travesty.
Ooh, and I know such a nice surfing spot too.
Well, there's nothing for it. If I wind up having to relearn how to swim as well, then you'll have to teach me once you know.
Oh, I better hurry up then.
Yeah, you better.
uh, uh,
Yoda smiles and says, I have something on my MP3 player I can listen to as a bedtime story. I can put it on the speakers if you'd like to join me.
Absolutely, I'd love to hear what you've got on there.
And he smiles and, um, like, squints at it and says, I hope the battery's not dead. I don't think there's any
Um,
USB chargers here. Um,
I've probably got some in the ellipsis if you need one.
he uh, puts in a little command that makes it come out as a stage whisper on the TTS. Thank you very much. Um, and I think as we zoom out, unless there's something else you would like the two of them to talk about,
No.
okie dokie. Then
Mm.
as we zoom out, Yoda will turn on the little MP3 player and flip the over the ear parts of the headphones so they turn into a little pair of speakers.
Mm.
Um, and put on a recording of a reading of the Odyssey, uh,
Mm.
read by a voice the professor wouldn't recognize, but that means a lot to Yoda, of
Mm.
a man with a musical voice and a faint Italian accent. Actually, it wouldn't be faint, but
Mm. That's very sweet.
mm-hmm. Um, this was so cute. Thank you so much for
Yes.
playing with me. This was
Oh,
delightful.
oh my goodness, thank you. Oh, oh gosh. Oh boy. Oh, that was delightful.
Thank you
Ooh.
so much for playing with me. I am in tears. Let's all say goodbye to our listeners. Bye bye, listeners.
Bye.